People always assume monsters look frightening. That is not true. Sometimes they wear expensive suits, look good, and are someone's golden child. Sometimes they're called your husband. My name is Nisha, and this is the story of how I escaped my monster. My favorite TV series used to be How to Get Away with Murder. Back then, I watched it purely for entertainment. It all felt so far removed from reality. I never knew that one day I would stand in a similar situation to cover up a murder. Standing on a bridge at past 2 in the morning, staring at the car I had crashed into the black ocean beneath me, praying that the darkness would swallow every trace of the nightmare my life had become. In a few hours, the sun would rise, my husband's body would wash ashore, and I would be the prime suspect. I was only 18 when my parents married me off into one of the wealthiest families in Mumbai. Everyone in my neighborhood envied me. They saw luxury cars lined outside our house during the engagement, gold jewelry draped around my neck, and newspaper articles praising the charitable work of the Mehra family. They saw everything except me. Ajay Mehra was 26 when we married. Handsome, educated abroad, influential, and the perfect son of a billionaire businessman, or at least that was the image carefully crafted for the world. Behind the gates of their mansion lived a completely different man. The first slap came 3 weeks after our wedding. I still remember apologizing to him, not because I had done anything wrong, but because I genuinely believed I must have. That is what abuse does. It convinces you every bruise somehow belongs to you. Ajay apologized the next morning with flowers. His mother told me all husbands lost their temper occasionally, and his father laughed, saying a woman needed discipline to become a good wife. I was 18, and I believed them. The second slap became the 10th became the 100th, and eventually I stopped counting. Ajay drank almost every night, returning home smelling of expensive whiskey and cheap perfume. Lipstick stained his shirts, another woman's fragrance lingered on him, and he never bothered hiding his affairs. "You're just my wife," he'd sneer. "They're my entertainment." The house staff heard everything. The security guards outside our bedroom heard every scream, and the maids quietly cleaned the broken glass after every argument. None of them ever intervened because everyone in that house answered to Ajay. Every morning, I became an artist. Foundation concealed bruises, concealer hid split lips, long sleeves covered fingerprints around my wrists, and a practiced smile fooled everyone, eventually, even me. 3 years into our marriage, I became pregnant, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to hope. Maybe a baby would change everything. Maybe Ajay would become a father before he remembered how to be a monster. Maybe his family would finally accept me. I was wrong. One evening, he came home drunk after losing millions at a private gambling party. He accused me of spying on him, and when I denied it, he kicked me so hard I collapsed onto the marble floor. Hours later, I woke up in a hospital where the doctor could barely meet my eyes before quietly saying, "I'm sorry." My baby was gone, and something inside me disappeared with that child. After the miscarriage, I never conceived again. Overnight, I became the family's greatest disappointment. Their precious heir had no heir, and naturally, it was my fault. My mother-in-law arranged religious rituals, priests blessed me, doctors examined me, yet no one suggested the man who had beaten his pregnant wife might have been responsible. Eventually, the whispers became insults: barren, useless, bad luck. Every family gathering reminded me I had failed in the only purpose they believed a wife existed for. I tried telling my parents, but my mother begged me to stay, while my father reminded me how much the marriage had elevated our family's status. Ajay's family had financed his business, paid my sister's university fees, and bought my parents a new house. Marriage requires sacrifice, he told me. You are fortunate to have such a wealthy husband." After that conversation, I never called home for help again. The only person who ever asked if I was truly okay was my younger brother, Arjun. He had been 10 when I married, and although he was old enough to hear the sadness in my voice, he was too young to understand. Every Sunday he called and asked, "Dee, are you smiling?" I always lied. Of course. For him, I learned to smile while crying. As the years passed, I also discovered the truth behind the Mera fortune. Their legitimate businesses were only a fraction of their empire. The real money came from the shadows, trafficking vulnerable women to wealthy clients, forgery, bribery, blackmail, and other crimes hidden behind luxury and influence. Women disappeared, money appeared, and questions were never asked. Ajay wasn't merely his father's spoiled son, he was one of the men ensuring the family's criminal empire remained untouchable. Politicians protected them, judges attended their parties, the rich bought silence, and the poor learned to survive it. By then, I no longer dreamed of escaping. I merely prayed to wake up alive each morning. Then came the night that changed everything. Ajay stumbled into the house well after midnight, intoxicated and furious after another disastrous evening. He accused me of embarrassing him, though I had barely spoken to him in days. The shouting became shoving, the shoving became blows, and something inside me finally broke. For the first time in nearly a decade, I refused to stay on the floor. I pushed him away, and in his drunken state, he stumbled backward. His heel caught the edge of a rug, he lost his balance, and the crack of his head striking the marble echoed through the room. Then came silence, the kind I hadn't heard in years. I stared at him, waiting for another insult, another threat, another command, but nothing came. My hands shook so violently, I could barely breathe. The man who had controlled every moment of my adult life lay motionless before me, and I wasn't thinking about freedom or revenge. I was thinking about what his powerful family would do to me if they believed I had killed their golden son. Fear engulfed me, but I quickly recovered as a surge of strength that I had never felt before filled me. I realized it was either going to be me or him. If he continued hitting me, it was only a matter of time before he ended me. Luckily, the house staff had already gone back to their quarters. I put Ajay in his car and drove toward the front gate. The windows were heavily tinted, and the security guards assumed it was Ajay behind the wheel, so they opened the gate without asking any questions. It wasn't unusual for him to come home drunk, assault me, and then storm back out again. Sadly, it had happened so many times that no one thought twice about it. After leaving the house, I drove toward the bridge. Later, I returned home through the hidden back entrance Ajay often used to come in and leave whenever he was carrying out his secret dealings and didn't want to be seen on the security cameras. When his body was eventually found, I was brought in for questioning. I told the police that Ajay had come home late that night, just as he usually did. We had argued briefly before he left the house again, and he never returned. During their investigation, the police reviewed the CCTV footage and confirmed that Ajay's car entered the estate at around 1 a.m. and left again at approximately 2:15 a.m. Because the windows were so heavily tinted, they also couldn't determine who was driving. Investigators also found that he had an extremely high level of alcohol in his system, and their investigation gradually expanded beyond the crash as they uncovered evidence linking him to the criminal activities that had secretly funded his family's wealth, exposing years of corruption, trafficking, and financial crimes. Their carefully crafted public image collapsed as authorities turned their attention toward the family's illegal operations. I was questioned repeatedly and finally spoke honestly about the years of abuse I had endured. Medical records, photographs, and witness testimony painted a picture I had never dared to share before. For the first time, people believed me. When the investigations ended, I walked away from everything that had once defined my life. I left my parents behind, I left the Mera name behind, and I left with nothing more than a suitcase and the hope that somewhere in the world I could finally learn what peace felt like. Do I feel bad or sorry for what happened to Ajay? Maybe I hadn't fought back, he would still be alive, but if I hadn't, I wouldn't be free. The sad and grim truth is that there is a price to pay for freedom, and although what happened had been an accident, but sadly, Ajay's life is the price I had to pay for my freedom, and I do not regret that. Silence doesn't mean danger to me anymore. I can now close my eyes and sleep without fear. I am free.